If you're tired of not making progress and you're ready to be the artist you know you're meant to be, you're in the right place. You're listening to the Singer's Path podcast. The Path, or Performing Artists Training Hub, will cover everything, including singing tips that actually work, advice from top industry professionals, and life-changing mindset shifts. Out with the starving artist and in with the thriving artist. I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, professional singer, actor, educator, and entrepreneur. I'm not afraid to speak the truth and stop the gatekeeping of quality information so you can actually become the artist you dream of being. So let's get on the path, shall we? Even though we're all on our own journeys, it always helps to have a guide. Hello, and welcome to the Singer's Path podcast. It is me, your host. Who else is it going to be? It's Sarah Bishop. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, I just find myself talking to myself often when I'm doing this. So then you get flavors of is she well? And today's flavor of is she well is particularly spicy because I am in full beat from the show I just did, which is a rare occasion, because I love hopping on with nary a to give. Okay, tell you that. I'm all over the internet looking barefaced or nay, day old makeup or 2 day old. Let's see. Let's just say the Menti H hasn't been super great this past year, and I've just been slogging by. And I actually, while as I'm doing this episode, if you're watching this on YouTube, the Singer's Path podcast on YouTube, I know people apparently like watching people talk. So now you're gonna get me in every state imaginable. I used to record this podcast like at 3 in the morning in my pajamas, or at 8 in the morning in my pajamas. And now today you're getting it at 11 at night because I am on a contract in New Hampshire. I'm doing a regional production, it's a professional show. It's just like a tiny theater though in rural New Hampshire. We're doing Million Dollar Quartet, so I am looking full beat. Yeah, and my husband is coming today. And his flight doesn't get in until 1 in the morning. So we are killing some birds with some stones and trying to work ahead of time so that I am not doing this while he's here. So that's a goal. And that's why we still have our makeup on because we're going to try and look a little pretty for our husband. Okay. Anywho, we are going to get into it today. And before I want to begin, I'm also on TikTok Live, so I have someone to talk to. And so sometimes you'll see me kind of look down here because my computer's down here because I didn't think about that. So, the reason we're yapping today is because I want to talk about what it means to take risks as an artist, as a singer, um, as an artist entrepreneur, which we all are if you're trying to make money from your art. It doesn't have to be with singing. I know this is a Singer's Path podcast because I mainly teach singers as part of my business. But we're expanding just to talk about livelihood of how to have a sustainable career as an artist, mentally, physically, financially, and emotionally. And one of the things I want to talk about today is this concept of taking risks and doing things that feel so scary or overwhelming and sometimes even impossible. And I'm going to give some examples of ways that you can identify if the intuition or the thing that you are thinking is the next move for you that you want to take, if that's feeling like the right move for you, or if your body starts to shut down, it starts to feel unsafe, it starts to feel like too big of a risk, you start to feel scared. And I'm actually going to relay it to the risks that I've taken actually in my business, and how I've been supported through that process and see how if artists, because artists again making money have a business, can start to make themselves feel better, to take those risks, to create a sense of safety, and kind of know the difference between, okay, is this actually a good choice to make, or am I just scared, right? And it is a good choice to make, right? Not talk yourself out of doing something that's intense, or feels like a lot. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today, and I really do believe doing this risk management and working with fear working with the understanding of, like, trusting your intuition and knowing that that actually can be enough and building up that trust over time, I really do think that that is actually the road to true confidence. And not just as an artist or in your career, but in life in general. The way to actually build true confidence in yourself, true knowing that it's gonna work out for you is unfortunately, leaping. Leaping sometimes before the net appears and learning to hold yourself on the other side of that. And again, if you don't have an established sense of safety, which actually so many artists don't, or they don't feel like they do, then working in increments to prove that to yourself or work towards that can feel like a lot. Okay. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to say, which is going to be a big overarching theme to all of this that I'm mentioning, is one of the keys to happiness in life that I'm discovering, and it's a hard pill to swallow. Okay. It's a hard truth to swallow, but it is true and it's backed up by psychology. Okay. And really, you actually choose to make things as big of a deal as you choose to make it. And that is going for risks, that is going from criticism, that is going from, um, if someone says something that you didn't like, if you get triggered, if, you know, if something is actually meaningful or not, right? We have so much free will and choice. And as people, right, as human beings on this planet. And why I'm saying this first is because this is going to be the way to actually start to listen to yourself is to identify that you get to choose what everything means to you, or rather, what anything that happens to you in your external world means about you. You actually decipher meaning from what you're experiencing in your own life. Okay. So let's back up a little bit. Okay. And let's talk about like Sarah pre-COVID, okay? And we'll talk about like some of the things that I knew that I needed to do for myself, but I wasn't doing because I was too scared to take the risk or follow the action that I was being intuitively shown. Like I didn't have a sense of safety to feel like I could actually jump the cliff, so to speak, like take the risk towards the thing that I wanted, okay? So pre-COVID, I was working in a restaurant. The restaurant job actually got better over time. Like I ended up with a pretty good restaurant job at a certain point where I was making like a pretty good set of money a week. It was pretty flexible. I didn't work that much. I didn't like bust my voice out. So I did actually really appreciate that job, but I was still unhappy because I felt like I had a lot to give and to do. I didn't know what that was. That was one of the most uncomfortable things was just sitting in this knowing that there were things that I was supposed to do, that I was supposed to make art, that I was supposed to, create music, that I was supposed to teach. And I had no way of knowing actually how to do that because where I was mentally at that point, it felt so overwhelming and such a far reach from what I was capable of, mostly financially. I felt like everything that came as like this is your next step. Like I could we all do. We all have that desire and that dream that we know what is actually our like one or two steps ahead next best steps for us. But a lot of us talk ourselves out of it a lot of the time for money because so many of us are in survival mode, which I very much was before COVID. It was all about how could I make myself as flexible and available for every gig under the sun. And it was also about, okay, well, I need to make sure that I can pay my rent and eat food and buy groceries. And I can't afford, even if my intuition is like, okay, I want to become a teacher somehow, or I want to teach singing. My brain then would talk me out of thinking that that was possible for me because I had no evidence around me that I was gonna be able to make that happen for myself financially, okay? Or I had the instinct, right? Like, "Oh, I know that I wanna move out of ensemble work as a dancer, and I want to move into acting more. Like, I want to play roles, and I want my voice to get better so that I'm competitive, and I had a couple experiences where I felt like auditions fell through mostly because I wasn't able to deliver what they needed me to. And so there was that other intuitive knowing was, okay, I need to train. I need to train more in my voice, and I need to train more in acting, because even though I'm saying I want these things, I actually have the feeling in my gut that I am not skilled enough to actually be competitive to receive that thing. So it was this like these 2 things that were like, "Okay, if we wanna move out of the discomfort of where we are now, we need to do something." However, I also told myself, even with the skill building, like, I didn't have the money. With what money was I gonna do that? Like, with what time, right? Like, I was already so overwhelmed and didn't have that sense of safety that taking any risk or any bet or investment in myself was like a no-go. It was like, "No, we are just stuck here surviving." Okay? And that happens to so many people. I still have friends that are in that, artists that I admire that are really just trying to get by and are completely stuck in fight or flight. Okay? So if I was to go back to myself, it ended up working out, and the only reason it ended up working out was because of COVID. Because COVID happened, and I ended up living with my parents, and I got the stimulus checks just like everybody else, and I actually was able to save the stimulus checks, and then I had already known what I needed to do. I needed to invest in my skill, and I needed to train to be a teacher. Then I immediately started doing that as soon as I had the funds, because I had at least, like, thought about what I was going to do and what I needed to do, okay? So, the first thing, if I was to go back, it did end up working out and it's fine. If I was to go back and talk to myself at that point, I would have told part me, I would have told me, "Hey, so your choices around what you're deciding matters, or what you're deciding what you can and cannot do, is super coded in fear and survival." Okay? And you are not believing in yourself, not because of, oh, you need to believe that you're gonna be a Broadway star. Obviously, that if that's your goal, like, yeah, you have to have this kind of unshakable belief of, like, this is gonna happen. But the most insidious part of the belief, which I'm constantly trying to tell artists, is my choice around my identity and who I was not around seeing how capable I was. That I was forgetting all of the grit and value and skill that I had, especially because I was in fight or flight, to be like, "No, girl, make the investment. Like, these are money-making skills that you're learning," especially the voice teacher thing of training as a teacher, being like, you need to sometimes spend money to make money, okay? So, if I was gonna talk to myself, I'd be like, "Hey, so you're using your free will because you're in survival mode to make your intuition, like, you're discrediting your intuition. Like, you know what step to take, and you're talking yourself out of it because you are so afraid that you see it all as evidence that it's never gonna happen for you, right? I was so stuck in survival and, like, I'm poor and I can't afford to do anything, and, like, this is never gonna change and this is never gonna work, with my free will choosing to loop on that all the time, that even if I had the intuition to, "Hey, this isn't working, this is your next step," I didn't feel safe enough to jump and take those steps, okay? Once I did, because I was in an environment where, I had a roof over my head in my parents' house at nearly 30 years old, and, I had the stimulus checks, that for me was enough of a safety net to feel like I could leap. Now, in reality, could I have gotten smart about knowing, okay, like, at least trusting, being like, Listen, I don't know a lot. I don't know how this is gonna work out, but I know there are 2 steps, okay? I need to train as a teacher and I need to get my skills up." Could I have planned and set aside and saved money when I believed that those intuitive hits like mattered, if I had used my choice again to go, I get to decide what matters and what means something. And it means I'm choosing to believe that it means something, that this intuition and this feeling that's not going away really matters. I'm choosing to believe that when I make investments for myself, it always pays off. Then it would have worked out probably as well. Okay. That's not what happened. It unfolded in a different way and it was still fine. But I guess my point is like it's everything we do always comes down to what we're making things mean. Okay. Another mental state that I was at, that's like a whole money and investing yourself conversation. Another mental state that I was in and have actually just started working through again was in terms of auditioning. Okay. So for a long time, for like a really long time, until even recently, okay, I did not realize that the reason that self taping was so hard and auditioning and being quote unquote rejected was so hard was because I was making that mean something about me if I didn't hear back. Okay, so let me explain. Obviously, like we can use our logic brain and be like, well, if I didn't hear back or I didn't get the call back, then that means that I didn't get the job, or like that means that it didn't go my way, or it means blah, blah, blah. Okay, sure. Like logically, you can say those things, but it was deeper than that. When I didn't get called back or I didn't get the job, it was all evidence for how I already felt about myself, which was actually the underlying story that I'm not chosen and I'm not enough. See, our brains are really smart, okay? And everything you perceive and the meaning that you give things that are reflected back to you is going to be a mirror for how you already feel. So, and I'm not saying like, I think you really can change what ends up being mirrored back to you when you change what the internal story is, okay? But at the bare minimum, I wanted to at least not feel like crap every time I went to an audition, right? And so I started waking up being like, okay, I'm noticing I'm having thoughts or just this general feeling after I'm done with an audition where I like leave, and if I don't hear back and I'm checking callback corner over and over and over again, there's part of me that believes that I'm making that mean that is just more evidence to support the feeling that I'm never good enough. Does that make sense? And so what I'm in the process of doing now is being like taking autonomy and control over what I decide means something, right? I could be like, "Hey, if I don't hear back, right, I decide that that means nothing and that I have chosen that it's always working out for me and the right thing is coming." Okay? When someone doesn't choose me, that doesn't mean that I'm not worth choosing. It just means that my next thing is not this, it's something else, right? And it's almost very detached. But if you find that when you like again, when you're putting yourself out there or when you're going into an audition and you're hyper fixating on everything in the room, right? This is a kind of a good example of how you can detect if you're going into these rooms seeking validation. I want you guys to be so for real, okay? How many of you, okay, and if this you and you on YouTube, I want you comment below. If this you and you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I would love for you to let me know at singerspath@gmail.com. I love hearing from you guys via email if you listen. How many of you have a little part of you, this little baby voice, okay, that when you go into an auditions, a part of you is hoping that these people will choose you so that you can finally have evidence that you were good enough all along. That you finally have evidence that you were allowed to do this, that someone finally shows you that this is what you should be doing. Okay? I really want you to be honest because there was always part of me, probably even since I auditioned for college, that was like, well, if they pick me, then that must mean that I'm finally good enough because in my mind, I had decided, I had assigned meaning to booking the job or getting the part or whatever to finally being chosen and finally being enough. Okay. If that's you, I want you to let me know because I feel like there's actually a lot of us out here that are like, and this is what people are like, you can't need validate. Like, it's the advice that's actually given is so vague and not helpful. You can't go into auditions needing validation. Okay. So what do I do? Right. But I think that the source of that really comes down to that. Okay. That I need you to choose me so I finally feel chosen. Okay? So how do we change that? If you're realizing that's you in your narrative and you're like, "Holy shit, like every time I go into an audition, like that's so true." Like or whatever it is. Like even if you're not a professional singer, right? Or an actor or whatever. Even if you are like going into your meeting at work and you're like, "I need my boss to like validate me so that I can finally feel like I'm chosen or like I should be doing this or I'm professional or I'm you assign meaning to merit. You assign like how many of you are giving your value, you're assigning it to other people choosing you, okay? So the way we fit it's not a fixed sort of situation. It's just an ever evolving unveiling of more. Let's just be for real. And also, there's nothing to actually fix. It's just what you're choosing to focus on, really, and who you're choosing to be. Okay. So if you notice that subconsciously you're actually making the choice of you're putting your sense of feeling okay and feeling like you deserve to do this and feeling like you're talented into the hands of casting directors, into the hands of the producers, into the hands of the directors. I need you to get so for real and ask yourself, where did you not feel chosen earlier in life? Okay. And I also need you to start asking yourself the question and get curious. What would it look like in my own life if I started choosing myself and I started noticing what I'm actually assigning meaning to? What are things that I'm making things mean more than they need to mean? Or I'm making it mean about me, right? I didn't get cast in the show. What am I making that mean about me? Am I making that mean that it's never going to happen for me? Or am I making that mean I can't wait for the perfect thing to come my way. Guess it wasn't this. YOLO, right? Like we always have a choice as to how we actually internalize and interpret things. Okay. So anyway, that was a big one that I got stuck on a lot. Okay. So now let's pivot into ways that once I started the business, I started learning this in like a completely different avenue of how to handle this, how to start being aware of what I was choosing and what I was assigning meaning to. And the process of, okay, once I start choosing the ability to be like choosing the identity of, when I make choices for myself that are in my best interest, I end up being okay. Oh, this didn't work out. What am I making that mean? Am I making that mean that I shouldn't be doing this in the first place? Or am I making it mean this is just giving me evidence that I need to pivot or do it in a slightly different way, right? So when I started yeah, getting coached in business, um I've also gotten a lot of questions from even artists that have been curious about starting their own coaching business or wanting to become voice teachers and feel really intimidated by it. Like maybe you guys are getting some of the intuitive cues and you're feeling like that's your avenue, kind of like I was when I was sharing at the beginning of this episode of like what felt like my aligned steps. And I want to speak to the feeling of overwhelm, similar to when I felt that before I had started a business, and even getting the training or the certification felt like a lot and an expensive thing that I couldn't do because I was telling myself I was making that mean that, that was out of my reach or I wasn't capable of making that money. Right. And first of all, again, if it doesn't go away and it's like heavy on your heart as something you know you're supposed to do, I can almost guarantee if you allow that to mean something, that means you're supposed to do it, right? And you assign appropriate meaning to it, and you go, okay, I'm getting the hint that this matters, and maybe I need to literally just focus on this step and dive, okay? I promise. Okay, this is gonna sound slightly on the religious side, and take this as you will, because I'm not trying to project anything onto you by using this language, but please, like, interpret this in whatever way feels good to you. But when God provides the vision, you get the provision, okay? When God provides the vision, you get the provision or whatever. When you get the vision, okay? When it drops in, when it's gnawing on you, when you know you're supposed to do it, you're gonna get the provision. It's gonna happen, okay? And so the best way out of the scaries, like back before COVID happened, right? You need to figure out a way to create some kind of sense of safety. One way to do that, to feel like you can start taking those jumps, right? So say you're an actor and you want to start a coaching business and it feels really overwhelming to do that. The first step is just take one little step in the direction of that thing, okay? Because again, our intuition's only gonna show us, like, 1 or 2 steps at a time. Don't worry about the big picture of it. That's actually a sneaky way for your brain to try to talk you out of doing it, because it feels like overwhelm is a way that we can shut down action to take, so that we actually don't do something different, because different to our systems and our body is scary. It's a survival technique. So if you're looking at the things you're wanting to do in a really huge picture that feels super overwhelming, then I need you to dial it back. You're going to still hold on to the vision and you're going to trust that provision is going to come. But if it doesn't feel safe, you need to just take one small step. One small step. So at the time, like, let's take back, okay, I was getting the 2 hints. I needed to work on my acting and my skill, and I needed to train as a voice teacher. Like, I knew those steps were there, okay? But I was telling myself, so overwhelmed by the process, that I didn't do anything, right? Another vision that I had that I didn't even follow through until this year, until nay, a month ago, okay? Barely, was releasing music. Was one that I told myself, again, my system went, "Oh my god, that's too vulnerable, it's too scary, that feels like too much. I see the vision, I see the thing I'm supposed to do, but I'm gonna try to talk myself out of it every way possible because it feels too scary." So yeah, I was releasing music and I kept telling myself, "Okay, I have to release an album. I have to spend 10K on it. I have to meet the perfect people to do it." And the truth is, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Who said it had to be like that? No one. Okay? It actually was way less expensive than I thought it was gonna be. You can also just release 1 song. You don't have to release 10 songs to have an album. Release a single. You don't have a budget, right? So that's what I would tell myself is like, what are you making the vision itself mean, right? Why is your brain going to this has to be such a big project? Where can you take little steps into the direction of the vision so that you're moving in that direction? And then that's actually how you start to gain trust with yourself, right? If the big, scary thing feels too intense, then you're actually going to be building trust that you have your own back by choosing the narrative. Like I said, you're making things mean what you're choosing meaning that actually is helpful to you, not just like, again, like kind of going on autopilot and letting your subconscious and your nervous system kind of take over and keep you in survival loops. Okay. So you're recognizing where you're assigning meaning that is not helping you. Okay. And at the very least is probably just making you miserable. Okay. What does it mean? Um, right. That it feels like a big scary vision. What are you making that mean about you? Okay. 2, taking tiny, tiny things. So for the music thing, if I could go back in time, I'd be like, "Girl, just, like, buy a microphone." Like, that was actually a tiny step. Buy a microphone, right? Do it yourself, right? Take that one step. Or actually finish the song, at least finish writing it. and then ask a friend who has a microphone to record it in their house like that. But it was like I told myself every excuse under the sun as to why that couldn't happen because I had made up some reason as to how it had to come out perfectly and I had to have all this money. And that was really just a sneaky excuse for me not to release it because I was afraid. Okay. So let's get back to the business thing. If you are, again, if you want to create a business as an actor, and you want to create your own acting studio, the first step would be, yeah, to talk to someone that already has a business would be a really good first step. Maybe making a website. Websites used to shut me down. Guys, now that's all I do is design web pages. And I finally have an assistant who does it a lot for me, which is really good. But I will tell you, I got so freaky deaky over sitting down, right? Again, what was I choosing that to mean, right? I would be like, "Oh, you have to make a website." Oh, well, that means I have to do everything and it's never going to happen for me because I just have to have all these skills and this is BS and like I'm just an artist, like I'm not supposed to learn to do that. Okay. Did you say like again, you're a business, you should probably have a website. Also, it doesn't have to be expensive. Also, nowadays with Wix and Squarespace, okay, it doesn't really take that long. Like you can sit and make something simple. Okay, so that would be another small step moving in the direction of where you need to go. All right. Another step, you could always reach out to other people. I've had people reach out before about teaching as associates on teams that are already established, right? Or bringing on, hey, like I have this training and I'm passionate about this. Would you be willing to have a meeting to bring on another teacher? You guys looking like that's another good way is like, okay, if you don't want to set up your own business, try to go do it somewhere else so that you can get that established and get that kind of mentorship as far as how to run a business, okay? Um, but I will say it was scary. Like this whole edge situation happens every time it's time for you to take a risk, okay, and make a jump. It for me, that first risk was getting the training. Um, the next risk was actually I was really good at teaching people to sing on pitch. So then it was a matter of, okay, I'm gonna make a product that's gonna help more people be able to do that. Oh my god, and then that's what I mean, the thing that's always around the corner when you're so scared to do the thing is, "Okay, well, why am I so scared? Because what am I making this mean about me?" When I first made Pitch and Musician, I made it mean, "Oh my god, if I release this, like, my entire reputation is on the line, and oh my god, like, this I'm putting so much pressure on this needing to be perfect, and what if someone doesn't I'm making this mean, what if it's not perfect? Well, then will it mean I'm a bad teacher or a bad person because I took money for something that wasn't perfect?" Right? It's like right? So, that's why having someone to listen to who understands this process, you have to check the fear voice and the meaning you're assigning to it voice. Because at the end of the day, it happened with every product. Once I made Pitch and what's now called Pitch and Musician, it was called Pitch Please. Once I finally made it and it was out there, I was like, "Oh, I, like, didn't die," and, like, all of this meaning that I assigned to this process was actually kind of irrelevant, and I'm kind of a drama queen. I, like, love making this mean so much more than it actually does, and what if it actually is just meaningless, and I could actually make it mean that, this is a really good thing that's gonna help the right people. And if someone's not happy with it, it means it's just either not the right product for them or it's an opportunity for me to help them use the product or, something like that. Like it doesn't I decide what it means. Okay? Let's say for example, let's use like a stage fright example too because some people's edge isn't making your first product, right? It's not holding your first live launch, right? And getting all spun out about what that means. It's not even going to an audition. It's just singing in front of people for the first time and having stage fright and feeling like, oh my God, I'm about to sing in front of people. And I've never sung in front of people before. And I'm so freaked out. And, I like am making this a really big deal in my head. Okay. And sometimes it is your body taking over. And again, if you guys want some free resources, to help with some of this stuff. There is the Abundant Artist audio series that's completely free. And if you're on the live, it's linked in my bio. I tried to link it on here and I wasn't able to. So you just have to go to my like page and get the free Abundant Artist audio series. I think there's a safety one that helps restore a sense of safety in yourself. There's also, if you want to go deeper, and this is something you really struggle with, we handle this a lot in the inner circle membership. There's an entire program on how to deal with stage fright and this performance anxiety. And it was co-created with mental health professionals on methods to actually help get your system and your brain back on top of your body. And again, be able to take these risks and move in the direction of your joy without leaving your body, right? So, but if stage fright is something, and every time you go on stage, right? I want you to like try to check. Like, I know your body's going to be doing stuff. Like sometimes you're shaking, your palms are sweating, right? So, I tell this to people a lot. I can't even remember if I did a whole episode on stage fright. I think I did at least a video. I can't even remember, guys, how many podcast episodes I've done. I think I've done like 80 podcast episodes at this point. So maybe we'll have to do another one that's like solely about stage fright and performance anxiety and how to handle that. Um, but once you're returning to your body and you're trying to feel your feet on the ground, okay, and you're choosing to be like, hey, in this moment, I'm still breathing and I'm okay and I'm here, right? The second thing is, what are you making this performance mean about you, right? Again, it comes back to that second step. What are you making it mean about you? A lot of our unhappiness is caused by things that we're making meaning that don't actually have meaning, right? And a lot of the fear is from that too. So in this situation, are you making this performance mean more than it actually is worth meaning, right? Are you deciding that if this performance goes badly, you shouldn't be doing this, or you're bad at what you do, or you're going to be embarrassed and you're going to make that mean that you're a loser or whatever. Like, what is the actual fear and meaning behind why you're kind of crashing out? Okay. And even if you want to take time just to sit with yourself and journal on that, um, what are you making it mean if it goes really well? Maybe it's the opposite. It's the pressure of this has to go really well, because if it goes really well, then that means I'm a good singer, right? So, like, where are you placing meaning and choice with your free will onto things that are making it worse? And can you actually, if we have free will and we can choose what things mean to us and what we're making them mean, can you choose to at least have it mean something that's actually in your favor and is positive and makes you feel good? Because again, the world is effed up right now, guys. Like, we all know this. It's dark, okay? At the very least, to be cognizant of the meaning that we're assigning many different things, and to make your life a little bit easier, and to stop being afraid of taking risks and doing scary things and enjoy yourself a little bit more. If that is the only reason you do this, God bless. And I think that is the biggest reason to do this, okay? Because it matters. It matters that you enjoy your life and you're moving in the direction of your intuition and the actions that you want to take, even if they feel scary, and you are not listening to the fear, and you over time begin to trust yourself because you're actually learning how to harness your crazy mind and assign appropriate meaning to something so that actually works in your favor and not the other way around. Okay. So I know that was a little bit of every single podcast episode, guys, every single one. It wouldn't be a podcast episode with me if we didn't have an ADHD wind around. And I'm assuming, I mean, like attracts like. Okay. So if you're listening, I'm assuming you were able to follow. Again, it really comes down to the two steps. I guess we can break it down into three, right? First step is you're gonna, like, you are, if you're quiet enough and you start to listen and ask the right questions of yourself, you're gonna know the thing you need to do. It's probably gnawing at you and causing you anxiety, because if you're telling yourself you don't know your next step and the thing you need to do, it's because you're avoiding listening to it. So if you took time to get quiet and breathe and ask yourself and start a journal and just sit with that, what is the thing that you need to take? What is the step you need to take, and start to create that relationship with yourself, okay? I'm 100% positive that it's going to present itself to you, okay? One. Two, if that feels so scary and overwhelming, whatever that step is, whether that's making a big career move, whether it's finally allowing yourself to go to the audition, whether it's singing in front of people for the first time, whether it's finally getting new headshots, even though you're telling yourself you don't have the finances and you're giving yourself every excuse, maybe it's releasing the song, whatever it is, it also comes down to what are you choosing for that to mean about you in the fear, right? So asking if this goes well, what does this mean about me? And if this goes badly, what does this mean about me? And at least recognizing that and deciding actively to be like, no, that doesn't work for me. I'm going to choose a different way of identifying with this. Okay. And then the third step is then taking a little bit of just take one tiny subdivision of that action. It doesn't have to be the big giant picture. If that feels too overwhelming, remember that's your brain going like, "Oh my God, how are we going to do this?" Da, da, da. We don't always know how. Break it down. What's one small thing you can do? And I promise this is going to feel a lot less scary, although it's still going to feel scary. Okay. That's why getting the Abundant Artist audio series and starting to work with your mind, or better yet, getting in the Singer's Path Inner Circle so you can start taking these risks and start feeling supported to do that. But doing these 3 things is going to start building a lot of trust in yourself. And it's going to, especially the choice and determining and having autonomy over the actions that you're taking, is really going to make you feel a lot happier overall, because you're taking control of your own internal narrative. You're not just letting it spiral you out in ways that aren't helping you. Okay. So that's this episode. It kind of, went different ways, but I hope there was some nuggets in there that were helpful. And that was this episode. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Again, reminder to check out the free things that are linked below. The Abundant Artist audio series is great. It's just a little taste of what we do in such a deep level in the Singer's Path Inner Circle. And to be able to go and use hypnosis, use somatics, use nervous system techniques to actually support yourself. There is so little support on this for pro actors. There really is. Like you can, I mean, and I think everybody should also have therapy, like go seek your private counseling and everything you need to do, right? Also, the Inner Circle isn't therapy, but it is like a coaching system that helps you be able to handle the ups and downs that come with this life, right? But we talk about all these things, and one of my favorite parts about the membership is that we also have live classes with people who specialize in teaching these things. And so you can ask them your questions, you can get feedback, you can get support on how to more easily navigate just the inevitable craziness that is from pursuing the arts at all, right? And doing things that scare you, okay? So with all of that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Check out the links that are in the show notes if you want that. If you're on TikTok, I'm going to stay on live and we're going to do another episode. But with all of that, I hope you have a wonderful next rest of your day. Yeah, we're going to go with that. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. This helps me get this information out to more artists all over the world. Let's work together to spread the joys of music. Until next time, I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, signing off from the Singer's Path podcast. Thanks for listening.